The Celtics, Rondo sitting again, but the question is why? Welcome into the Sporting News Studios. I'm Tom Vandervoort. Joining us now, as he does every Wednesday, to throw some elbows, our NBA writer Sean Deveney. And Sean, why is Rondo sitting?
Well, he's sitting because of a pretty remarkable overreaction by the NBA office. They got a DVD from Hawks general manager Danny Ferry that showed Rondo sort of bumping referee Rodney Mott. Now, when Rondo was asked about it, and certainly if you look at it, it really wasn't much of a bump. It was more of one of those things that you see all the time where a player goes up to a ref and tries to plead his case. Yes, his shoulder did hit Rodney Mott, but, Mott didn't think much of it, didn't call him for a technical foul, certainly didn't throw him out of the game. But when the league went to Rondo to ask him for an explanation, Rondo said basically, hey, look at the play yourself. I don't feel like I need to explain anything. And he's right. He really didn't need to explain anything, but the league didn't like the way that he approached that, and so he winds up getting suspended for a game. Now, this is a really silly precedent for the league to set. If you're going to have teams and general managers sending in videos every time that they think a player might have done something, if we're going to have that sort of tattletale mentality, then the league should really be prepared to get a lot of DVDs from a lot of teams.
All right, now let's talk a little bit about Phil Jackson, because he's now said he has no intention of coaching again. So is his shadow now not hanging over everybody, or is this likely to come back?
Well, it's still going to be hanging in Los Angeles, and that's unfortunate for Mike D'Antoni. I've said all along that one of the great mistakes that the Lakers made was to call Phil Jackson and then turn around and give the job to Mike D'Antoni, because what happens is now the whole fan base and the media and certainly even the players are as they're listening to Mike D'Antoni, they're thinking, I wish we had Phil Jackson. And that's a tough thing for a coach to coach against. Now, the Nets were interested in Jackson. If they had kept that interest up and Jackson had returned the interest and they wind up hiring somebody else, then that somebody else would have dealt with the same thing that D'Antoni is dealing with. And really, you can imagine that happening in several other places like New York or Chicago, or wherever you might wind up with a new coach in the future. You'd always have that Jackson shadow sort of looming over you. So, this is a good thing probably for most new coaches, as they won't have to deal with, if Phil Jackson is serious about not coming back, certainly it's probably too little too late from Mike D'Antoni.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, down in D.C., John Wall is fixing to come back, and it's just been a really, really tough year for the Wizards. What can they hope to accomplish when Wall gets back on the court, and is he going to remain with this team for the long term?
Yeah, this is a big year for him. Even though the Wizards are 5-28 and really are just so far out of the playoff chase that it's not even worth mentioning. They did think that they had a chance at the playoffs coming in because they got rid of some of the knuckleheads that had been around before, guys like JaVale McGee and Andre Blatch. They got rid of those guys and brought in veterans like Emeka Okafor and Trevor Ariza, thinking that John Wall will really blossom with that sort of veteran leadership. Now he's been out with the knee injury, so we really haven't been able to see whether that's been the case. And like I say, it's too late now for them to expect the playoffs, but they've got to be able to see whether John Wall can be the franchise player that they hope he can be, because he's going to be eligible for a contract extension this summer. And, if he can't show that he's really that franchise player, they're not going to give him that extension.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch, and I guess if you're a superstar athlete in D.C., you better watch your knees. Sean, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.